But I was just slagging you off, saying that. Oh, thank you very.
Thank you. Hello, Cookie, and today I want to see Dan Kemp score some goals. I'm sick of him being on the bench and needs to come off the bench and do something.
You're closer to the camera.
Yeah.
Were you sat here or
No, I was sat on the inside and I look smaller.
So you'll look a bit bigger because you're close to
Yeah,
the camera.
that's what I do it every week.
It's on Bank 1, Channel 1, full battery. Ollie, Ollie, Ollie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got a good fuel based gag lined up to get the show started.
Go on.
Good afternoon and welcome to Orient Live here at the Brea Group Stadium. Now here's hoping that the O's don't run out of fuel this afternoon as they look to extend their winning run to 4 games as we face Nigel Clough's Mansfield Town FC. And of course, if you've ever wondered what it's like when two humongous football brains collide, well, today you're going to find out, because on the sofa today we have Brendan Pitcher and Andrew Butler. Welcome, boys, and thank you for joining us today. Have you ever been described as a humongous football brain before?
No, it's a shame that you couldn't make it 3, but never mind.
Listen, you two do all the hard work. Now, a big game today, obviously with the O's sitting in second, Brendan. It feels similar to last week. Mansfield down the bottom end of the table, but do you think it will be a similar story today?
I think Mansfield have a bit more quality about them at this moment in time than Bristol Rovers. I think they've got a manager in Nigel Clough who you put up with kind of Kenny Jackett as one of the most experienced and one of kind of the best in League Two, I'd say. They haven't performed as probably they would have expected. They do tend to kind of spend big every summer, and sometimes they don't get it right. But I think in terms of quality wise, player for player, it's still a very kind of strong starting 11 they've put out today. So it's going to be a tough test, and I don't think you can necessarily look at the table and look at them being down there and go it's going to be an easy win, because I think Nigel Clough's going to get them firing today.
Of course, but focusing on Orient though, Andrew, don't worry about the opposition because we've been in such fantastic form ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to play our own game. We're becoming a team now that teams will not want to be playing against, especially in the run of form that we've had. Mansfield, I completely agree with Brendan. Their kind of position at the table belies actually their performances so far this season, but they'll be concerned coming here because we've been fantastic in recent weeks. We've really hit the ground running so far this season, and we've got the quality across the pitch that their 11 will be looking at us and going, wow, we've got a really tough test ahead of us. So we've just got to be doing what we've been doing recently, which is getting on the front foot, scoring hatfuls of goals as well in the last couple of weeks. We've been brilliant, and this is a game that I think you just need to identify as right, get the 3 points and be on our way.
Well, there certainly are a lot of discussion points that we'll be going over this afternoon. And we've obviously got a jam-packed show for you today. Alan Comfort will be joining us before the show, and Nigel Travis, the chairman, will be joining us at post-match. So as new investor Nick Samaka will be joining us at half-time. And of course, if you're watching along on YouTube, make sure you head across to the Leyton Orient Match Centre to pick up your audio pass, or of course your match stream if you're an international fan. But now let's take a look at the Leyton Orient starting lineup for this afternoon's game. In goal, number 22, Lawrence Figueroa. Number 2, Tom James. 3, Connor Wood. 8, Craig Clay. 9, Harry Smith. 11, Theo Archibald. 15, Alex Mitchell. 16, Aaron Drinnan. 18, and captain Darren Prattley. 19, Omar Beckles. And the one change today, number 25, Shad Oji, coming in for Dan Happy. And on the subs bench, Reece Byrne, Dan Happy, Dan Kemp, Tyrese Omatoye, Ruel Satiriou, Anthony Papadopoulos and Hector Cipriano. Now, Brendan, does that one change surprise you? Shad obviously came on at the end of the game against Bristol last week, gave away a penalty. Are you surprised to see him take Dan's place this afternoon? Yeah,
I think Happy came off with a bit of a knock, didn't he? And perhaps he's still feeling the effects of that. But I think it's a big show of faith in OG because he's a young player and he's got a lot of ability about him. We see that he's got a lot of tenacity about him. He steps into play with the ball. He's quite fearless in what he does. But then he also kind of has those moments, as we saw with the penalty against Bristol Rovers, where he'll do something a little bit rash and perhaps make a mistake. But I think this is kind of Kenny showing today that he trusts him and he feels he can kind of coach those kind of rash moments out of him, which hopefully he'll be able to do. And he hopefully he'll put in another good performance today.
Yeah, because let's not forget, before his bout of COVID, yes, he gave away a penalty last week, but the games before that, I think COVID probably came at the worst time for him. He was looking unbelievable.
He was sensational in that game here against Bradford when he put in pretty much a man of the match performance. Absolutely brilliant. And I don't know if it's that thing of last weekend was really late on in the game. Your mind just wanders. If you're 3-0 up as well, it's very, very easy mistake to make. Not mistakes that he should be making, of course, and they are mistakes that a young player makes that will be eventually coached out of him. But if you cast your mind back to those games that he's played at home, I think just having the crowd behind you, everyone wants him to do well, and there is that feeling, isn't there, when you see the fans, you see a player come through, and everyone there's that willingness to want them to improve, get better, because then you can kind of start being like, he's one of our own, and he was phenomenal in that game. So hopefully, the fact that we're playing again at home will just give him that encouragement.
And he obviously sits in a very strong back three. Alex Mitchell's really impressed since slotting into the side, and obviously Omar Beckel's been a feature there from the beginning of the season. It looks a very solid back three, and probably Vigouroux would have been very unhappy to have not taken a clean sheet home from Bristol with him last week.
Yeah, for sure. And that back three is that's where and let's be honest, let's talk about promotion tilts and promotion campaigns. You have to build on the success from the back. So Alex Mitchell's come in and been absolutely fantastic. It will be no surprise to a lot of Bromley fans who saw him last season. There's a reason why Gary Rowett at Millwall kept him for so long before allowing him to go out on loan, because there was even a sniff that he might be able to get in the Millwall team. So we've got a good player there. Beckles is a fantastic player, but that's what everyone was saying when we signed him, that we knew what he was going to be capable of. And there's that last slot between Happy and OG have been they've been really capable so far this season. We'll build from the back. That's great, but it's all across the pitch at the moment. You don't want to be playing against us, because our back line's solid. Won't give the attackers on the opposition any sort of a sniff. Clay and Prattley in the middle, they're tenacious midfielders, tough tackling. You don't want to be playing against them. And then up top, we'll come on to that, but we're scoring goals for fun. So it's at the moment really gelling well, and at the start of the season you can't ask for much more.
You can't. And on the subject of gelling, there was a lot made of kind of the fluidity of the O's and the formations played, but Kenny seems to be sticking with this 3/5 at the back, however you want to call it, Brendan.
Glenn's not here today. Let's call it a 5.
It's a 5. But it's been working. I believe we're unbeaten since switching to that formation. There's a reason why Kenny's sticking with it.
Yeah, it gets the best out of our players. I think that's the thing. I think Kenny perhaps hasn't played that formation much in his career previously, but it's about him kind of choosing a formation that suits the personnel we've got, and you've got those 3 centre backs who all look very comfortable at the minute. The 2 wing backs, it's massive for, because I think they're solid enough defensively, but their strengths are going forward. They've got great deliveries on them, as we've seen with Tom James in the last 2-3 weeks. He looks a different player at right wing back. He was excellent last weekend. I thought man of the match. And then you've got the 2 centre mids in Clay and Prattley, who are functional in there. They win the ball, they keep it simple, nothing too kind of extraordinary, and then you just let the front 3 do what they have to do, because they're in sensational form at the minute, and they look a massive threat. And as we've seen in the last 2 weeks, they've each scored a goal in each of the last 2 games. So they're coming into this in a great run of form, and hopefully they can continue that today.
Absolutely. And Andrew, if you looked at this Orient side today, there's obviously not many changes, but who would you single out as the man to be that threat for the odds? I don't want to ask a loaded question, but I'm pretty sure I can guess who it might be.
I mean, it's got to be Harry Smith, because 6 goals in his 7 appearances so far this season. Just leading that line. We've got some clips. It's just his all-round game. In this first clip, he's taken pretty much 3 men out there against Bristol Rovers, gets us on the attack there. And the next one that we see will be, it's another one pulling out. This is their right back. He kind of causes a nuisance, not just for their centre backs, but for all of their back line. And when he drops deep or just drops off his front line, the link-up play, we know what the fullbacks are capable of. They love going forward too, so he can drop deep. It allows us to get back on the attack. And again here, when he drops deep, there's 3 men ahead of him there when he's dropped deep. It's such a difference from last season. And then his goals have been, the kind of the main thing for us this season. His goals have led us to victories, and getting draws against Newport. And he's a big man. He's a great. Everyone knows he's a big man, but I hate to use a cliche, especially as a 6'3" man myself, with decent enough feet. Good feet for a big man. A lovely little deft chip against Carlisle. He's been a real revelation so far this season, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. And aside from Harry, though, Brendan, he's got Aaron Drennan and Theo Archibald scoring either side of him for fun as well. I made the joke with the guys who select the man of the match. You feel as though he's already got it wrapped up today.
Yeah, I mean, the fans have really taken to him, and deservedly so. And Theo Archibald brings us something that perhaps we haven't had in recent times, in terms of he's a left winger that is left-footed and will just get to the byline sometimes and put in a ball, and perhaps we've lacked that in recent years, and it really does play to the strengths, because Harry Smith obviously is great in the air, but also Aaron Drinnan, we saw last week with his head against Bristol Rovers, he's decent enough in the air as well, so hopefully again we'll see more from today.
And how much do you actually make of the league position at this point in the season? We've had Nigel's here today, and he was saying that, you know, he wants to be first, he's happy that we're second. It feels early doors, but if you can get in those positions early doors and you can stay there early doors, that's when you win the league.
Yeah, totally. Look, Forest Green aside, who are 19 points, they'll stay top regardless this afternoon. We've got 15. We can drop down to, I think it's 9th after today's. We won't, and I'm sure we won't. But that is a really, really tight group that there are currently in League Two. The thing is, at this stage of the season, it's there are league positions that actually kind of don't do justice to where clubs are. I think Mansfield, our opposition, are one of those clubs. They're much better than their 20th position suggests, which will cause us they'll cause us some problems. We'll come on to them. Our position, I think, is entirely justified. I think we're there for a reason, but it's not just positions that you get in the league, it's performances. And Kenneth Jackett said this earlier this week. He's like, you can have these positions, but it's all about performances. But we've been putting in the performances to get us up there. Like, I think there's a couple of teams that you get every season where, if you've not been watching them week in, week out, you think, oh, they're in great form, but they've been scraping results. They've been scraping, like 1-0s or 2-1s and all that kind of stuff. But we've been putting teams to the sword. Bristol Rovers 3-1 away last weekend. Oldham 4-0. Bradford was a really, really tough, was a tough battle, but we come out of that game 2-0 winners as well. So I think we absolutely deserve to be there, and I think we're showing the league that it's not just our position, but it's our performances that are also proving our worth.
Absolutely, and hopefully the O's can continue that rich vein of form this afternoon. But now let's take a look at the opposition we are facing this afternoon in the form of Mansfield Town, led of course by Nigel Clough. In goal, number 1, Nathan Bishop. 3, Stephen McLaughlin. 4, Elliot Hewitt. 6, Farron Rawson. 8, and their captain, Ollie Clark. 9, ex-Orient, Jordan Bowery. 10, George Morris. Another familiar face here, number 11, Danny Johnson. Number 12, Ollie Hawkins. Number 18, Reece Oates. And number 32, George Lapsley. And on the subs bench, George Shelby, Harry Charsley, Ryan Burke, Tyrese Sinclair, Keaton Ward, James Clark, and Jason Law. And now he's staring us in the face as we stare at the screen, Andrew. And we hope, knowing what he's about, that he isn't staring down on goal tonight, because we know how lethal and deadly he can be.
Danny Johnson, that is, rather than
the man who's just been.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting, I think, for him coming back here, because obviously we all know he had a great, fantastic season with us last season. Top scorer, scored loads for fun for the first half of the season, then sort of slightly tailed away in that second half of the season. But we know that he's kind of like, he's a poacher. He can kind of create a goal out of nothing. He'll pounce on mistakes. Against Mansfield last season, he got those couple of goals where he was just pouncing on mistakes. And so it's going to be an interesting one, because I think because of the turnover of the team, I think that's going to be an interesting thing, because the defenders that he's up against today are Alex Mitchell, Omar Beckles, Shad, and then if you want to count your wing backs as well, James and Connor Wood. He's not played with or against like most of those players, or at least not really at any sort of length. So I don't know. I think maybe those sort of things for that defence probably go out the window a little bit. If he starts dropping deep, then okay, I expect Craig Clay will do a number on him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he performs.
We know firsthand just how Danny plays his game, and we saw, especially in that second half of the season, how frustrated he'd get with trying to battle with the centre-backs. He had no luck and he wasn't winning any fouls. Is that something that, having that slight bit of knowledge, we can take into today's game, wind him up, get him frustrated, because we know he's like that?
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope people like Craig Clay are going around the dressing room right now to people like Omar Beckles and Alex Mitchell saying, wind him up, just let him go, because I don't think he played his best football when he was getting wound up last season. We saw at times, we could hear it definitely because we're in that kind of empty stadium, but you could hear him kind of swearing and getting frustrated. And I don't think there was any point where that produced the best football of his time at Orient. I think his best football was when he was kind of calm and in the zone, and hopefully we're looking to exploit that today.
Hopefully so. And Danny Johnson aside, you've picked out another danger man for us this afternoon. Who do you think the real one to watch is for the Mansfield Town side today?
So I think last week we spoke about Brett Pittman, and this week we spoke about Ollie Hawkins, both strikers that Kenny Jackett worked with at Portsmouth. And I think he's naturally a striker. He's played up front kind of his whole career, but I think there's a good chance that he might actually be playing centre back today, which could be quite an odd one. But if we're looking at in terms of his striking play, he's a big lad. He's about the same size as Harry Smith, and perhaps kind of we spoke about how important Harry Smith is to us. It's shown in the team selection here because Mansfield have a little bit of an injury crisis at centre back, and to kind of combat that, they're playing a guy who is roughly Harry Smith's size to maybe try and combat him out there, because he's played out in centre-back before. It's not completely kind of unnatural to him. I think Kenny even might have used him there a few times for Portsmouth, but naturally he's a striker. So I think if you're Orient and you're Harry Smith, even though Ollie Hawkins is a similar size, you're going to be trying to kind of capitalise on his lack of defensive instincts in there.
And with a player like Theo Archibald in the side and Harry Smith, of course, that will be key. Running at him, getting him on the back foot. He's not a centre-back. He might have played there, but that's going to be key today and really getting at this Mansfield side.
Yeah, he's not a player who's blessed with great pace. So if you're Harry Smith, you're thinking maybe you're going to get into a battle with him. But if you're Theo Archibald or Aaron Drinnan, you're thinking, I'm going to run in behind him. I'm going to test him for pace, because hopefully you're going to win that race.
I certainly hope you're right, Brendan. Now, we do have Alan Comfort ready to join us, but first it's time to hear the thoughts of Kenny Jackett and Craig Clay ahead of today's game.
So the balance is there in the performances at the moment, and we have to keep working at it. And while the league position is nice, it says over 100 points to play for, and getting the team right and then, setting it on a path through the winter is a good thing, and your early season you want to be able to do that, particularly on the training ground, in the games, build up some confidence, build up away, make sure you have a clear set of values and pattern that can see you through, because it's, once you start that period it can run on, and similarly if you get it wrong in that period it can be difficult as well. So set some foundations down for what we need to do, and then work away, and after that a league position will come.
Yeah, definitely, it's definitely going to be a tough game, you know what I mean? It's two great old institutions going toe to toe, so we know it's always going to be a tough game against them, but it's more about us this weekend. Obviously, like you've said, our momentum, our form, we need to worry about us and carry on that form.
Mansfield are, much fancied at the start of the season, and I was really thinking and still do think that they'll be up there. I think they're a good club. I think they've got a good manager, and I do think they'll be up there, Mansfield, 100%. And the tests don't get any easier. Yeah, the fans, like you say, the atmosphere, that's helped us massively. We've heard them every game so far, and we did say at the start of the year that we want to make this place a fortress. We're obviously getting results, and the fans helping as well. So other opposition teams fear coming to us. So yeah, we need to carry it on this Saturday.
Elsewhere, Paul Smith's back out on the grass. Is he making good progress?
He is, yeah. Well, I don't think it will be this week. I think that outside chance for Port Vale, and that's where he is for Paul Smith. Maybe on the bench. It's around about that time that he'll be fit anyway, depending on how much training he does. But he's progressing well, very well. It has been slow though, and taken a long time for him to get fit, which has been frustrating for us.
Now we've got just under 10 minutes until kick-off, and I'm absolutely delighted to say that we've been joined by an Orient legend, and I don't use that word lightly because ex-Orient winger Alan Comfort joins us on the sofa now. Alan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and first, welcome to the studio. How are you keeping?
I'm really good, thanks. I've had a lovely lunch in there, so I have to say, if that's what I had to eat to get here, then I'm very glad to have had it.
Well, of course, fantastic meals. If you want to get involved with the hospitality, email p.let@leytonorient.net and you can come for some hospitality yourself. Thanks for the advertisement, Alan. Have you been following the O's much this season? We've been in pretty decent form.
I'm very good form. This is the first game I've been to this season, because having been chaplain for so long and come to every game, because I've stepped back from chaplaincy just now, it's meant I've had a rest But you're obviously watching all the results, and things look really good. And it was exactly what I guess you were hoping for with Kenny Jackett becoming manager. Kind of, if you could say, this is how I hope it's going to pan out, then it appears to be going in the direction that you kind of thought it would, with the way the team are playing, the way we're getting results. And so, good for him, because he's delivering on what his reputation brings, which is brilliant.
Absolutely, and we've been scoring goals for fun in the previous games, and you've been part of a very successful Orient side yourself. How important is it that we maintain that the consistency and that real drive at goal?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to finish in the straight promotion positions, then you have to be consistent. Then. And you have to keep playing well, and sometimes you're not playing well, you get results, but ultimately you have to play well more than you don't. And we appear to have great strengths around the team, lots of experience, as well as some younger players coming through as well. You just think, well, it seems steady and dynamic at times, but it seems the team seems to know what it's doing and where it needs to go. And obviously, if your strikers are scoring, you're not relying on one person to get all the goals, which it feels like we've got goals that can come from a few different places.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably the key, because if you have one player scoring all the goals, eventually the other teams will work that out. And
absolutely. And I'll be honest, you were a tiny bit before my time, Alan, for watching the O's. I'm right in saying you're a dynamic left winger? Will you take that?
Well, dynamic's okay.
But a left winger nonetheless. I'm not sure if you've seen many clips of the young Theo Archibald we've got out here.
Yeah.
I think probably the most exciting left winger since you. I'm not sure if you've seen any clips, but he's been phenomenal.
Dean Cox won't like it.
Oh, sorry, Dean.
He'll be
Sorry,
on next.
Dean.
He won't take it as well as me.
He was an inverted foot. He could play either side. But no, I don't know if you've seen many of his goals or.
And I was just talking to somebody whilst I was having lunch there, and they were referring back to his style being very similar and things. So it makes you feel good, doesn't it? That in some ways, because of the I was a very old-fashioned type of left winger. Stand on the line and touch line, and the ball would come to me, and off you go. And it seems that in many ways that's gone from the game. Although somebody getting a ball, getting past people, getting crosses in will never go from the game. But I think just the style of being so attack-minded in comparison to the sort of team where everybody gets back in and does their part. So I don't know if he plays like me, because he probably wouldn't get in the team if he stood on the line as much as I did. Kenny Jackett would have him off quickly.
Oh, he'd be divisions above, Alan. He'd be divisions above. Now, I'm sure you're going to remember the day very well, seeing as it was your wedding day. But if anyone watching at home hasn't heard this story, I'm not sure where you've been. But am I right in saying it was the playoff finals where you helicoptered to your wedding straight from the pitch? That must have been an absolutely phenomenal day.
Yeah, it's hard to plan a day like that, isn't it? So, but it was when you look back on it, when people say what's the best moment of your time at Orient, which I had a brilliant time at Orient. It was that game, and it wasn't because it was my best game, because it actually wasn't. It was a long way off my best game, but it was a game when we as a team were successful, and I think when you're younger, and I was still young then, you think that success is waiting to come all the time. You'll get promoted here, or you'll do something there, and actually, football careers don't have that many moments like winning a playoff final and seeing your team get from one division to the other. So, best day ever, football-wise.
And the wedding.
Exactly. Well, interestingly, people do often say to me, did you think about not playing because you were getting married? And I said, that never entered my mind at all. And it didn't, honestly. I always thought maybe I can do both of them. The game, wedding was in Northern Ireland, game in London, kick-off 3 o'clock for both. Which makes it fairly impossible to do. But Frank Clark managed to move the game to 12 o'clock. We moved the wedding to 5 o'clock. And Sunday Express had a helicopter and an aeroplane and a small plane and a police car. And so as the game ended, I literally hardly washed. The helicopter was meant to land on the pitch. It couldn't land on the pitch. It landed on a field somewhere. We had to get to the field. and I was followed by a drunken Sunday Express reporter. I had to ditch him in the end, and a brilliant day.
It certainly was. Alan, thank you so much for joining us. It's nearly time to pass over to Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock. The atmosphere out there is sounding amazing for the last 15 minutes. I'm not sure if that's the O's fans or the Mansfield fans.
It'll be the Orient fans, obviously.
Of course it will be. But of course, thank you for joining us. And if you are watching along live on YouTube, head over to the Match Centre now to get your audio pass, or if you're an international fan, get your streaming pass now. It's time to pass over to Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock, but join us back here at half-time when Nixon Macker, the investor, will be joining us, and Nigel Travis will be here at full-time. Come on, you O's!
And good afternoon, welcome to the Blair Group Stadium, Brisbane Road, where the expectations are high, and why not? Leyton Orient are flying high, second in the table, and in Harry Smith they have the joint top scorer